Okay, tomorrow we're going to be leaving the Sukkah. And the Ramah writes in Shulchan Aruch that there's a custom that when a person leaves the Sukkah, they say a prayer, the leaving the Sukkah prayer. The Ramah writes, Yeshanagu, there are those who have the custom, Kishahayu Yotzim in a Sukkah, when they leave the Sukkah, Hayom, they would say, Yehi Ratzon, should be the will of Hashem, Shenizkeh, that we should merit Leishev B'Sukkah Shel Leviatan, that we should sit in the Sukkah of the Leviatan, Leviatan. Now, what in the world does that mean? What's the Sukkah of the Leviatan? Well, you always hear about this big fish, the Leviatan. What does that mean? That's our prayer when we leave the Sukkah. So we'll give a little bit of a understanding to it. Try to bring it a little bit practical for us. And as we are on our last day of Sukkot, we could really try to think about what Sukkot really means to us and what are we going to take away from Sukkot moving forward. So the source of this idea of the Sukkah of the Leviatan is a Gemara in Baba Basra, on Daf Ayin Hey Amud Aleph, 75a, where it says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Asir HaKadosh Baruch Hu Lasos Sukkah LeTzadikim Me'oro Shel Leviatan. That at the end of days, times of Mashiach, Hashem is going to make a Sukkah for the Tzadikim from the skin of the Leviatan. Shenemar Hitmalei B'Sukkos Oro. And the source of that is an earlier source in the Medrash, in the Yalkut Shimoni, where it says, Kol mi shemekayim mitzvah sukkah ba'olam hazeh, whoever keeps the mitzvah sukkah in this world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu meishivo b'sukkaso shel Leviatan l'asad lavo. That in the future, we're going to, if you keep it in this world, in the future you're going to be able to benefit from the sukkah of the Leviatan at the end of days, shenemar itmalei b'sukkos oro. Okay. So the question is, what is this Sukkah of the Leviatan? What does it have to do with our Sukkah nowadays? So let's take a step back for a minute and just think about Sukkot on a very basic level. And this is pointed out already by the Meshech Chachma in his Perush on Parshas Emor. And he says as follows. He says, what was Sukkot? You had a guy, a farmer, and that's how everyone lived in those days, back in the day. And he plowed his field, and he sowed, and he reaped, and he planted, and he was busy the whole summer, right? Schwitzing in the fields, getting ready for his produce to grow. And he has it, he gathered it all together, he brought it into his storehouse. His machsan is full of his fruits and his vegetables and all his hard work the entire summer, right? He's killing himself, and now it's all full. So what do you want to do? Come September time. What do you want to do? You want to sit in your living room in the air conditioning and just enjoy. I mean, you just worked for the last 5-6 months killing yourself, and now you finally have the produce. Sit there, relax, eat a little bit, enjoy, spend time with the family. You can't go into the fields now anyway because there's nothing to do. So relax. And what does the Torah tell you? Don't relax. Get out of the air conditioning. Go into the sukkah. We want you to sit outside in the not as comfortable. There are no couches in there. You don't have windows. You don't have this. You don't have that. Just go out there and hang out there. It's against teva. It's against the natural way that a person would want to go ahead and live your life. So what's the Torah telling me? The Torah is telling me that that's exactly what we want. We want that your basic ways of living, you're eating, you're sleeping, you're drinking, you're playing backgammon, whatever it is that you're doing, we want that to be spiritual as well. It's not like there's like a time in your life that you do the hard work and then you chill. You can chill all the time, but you're always chilling for Hashem. It's always for a purpose. And therefore, what you do is you bring in the mundane acts. Eating, drinking, nothing, like going to sleep, nothing we would call holy. What are you doing right now? Doing something holy. No, I'm eating a rugelach. Yeah? Whatever you're doing, a very basic stuff, we bring into the sukkah. We submerge our whole body into the sukkah. The Vilna Gaon points out that there are only 2 mitzvos that exist where you take your whole body and submerge it inside. One is sukkah, and the other one is living in Eretz Yisrael. That you have your whole body, your whole existence goes into this thing, and just living there is a mitzvah. And therefore, that's what we do on Sukkot. We go ahead and we take all the mundane stuff. It's against him. We wouldn't have thought this is what we would be doing, but we dafka go ahead and we spend our time in the Sukkah with all of those mundane type of things. Okay, so that's what Sukkot is all about. Now, what is the Leviatan? What is that all about? So let's take a step back for a minute. This is already formulated by the Vilna Gaon and others. Again, it's a little more Kabbalistic, so I'll just explain a little bit from what I understand. But I'll take a more basic approach for a moment. Let's look at the word. The word Leviatan. The word Leviatan has the exact same root as Levi, or loveh, to loan money, to borrow money, or milaveh, to escort someone out. Milaveh malka, the meal that we eat after Shabbos. Levaya, a funeral. So there's something very funny going on here. You have this Leviatan, which is in our storytellings that we might have heard. It's like this big fish, and then you have a Levi. He's the guy who gets the second aliyah every day when we lane, right? And then we have Milava Malka, and we have lending a guy money, and we have a funeral. Many different things that at first glance have absolutely nothing to do with one another, but they all share the exact same root. And we know that any time you have a word in Lashon HaKodesh, in the holy Hebrew language, there's no such thing as two words just sounding the same. If they have the same root, they have the same meaning at its root. So what is the meaning of the Levi of these things? So the answer is they're all about joining together, connecting with. So for example, when Levi was born, his mother said, Apam yilaveh li es ishi. My husband is now going to connect to me. What's milaveh, when I escort someone out? What am I doing? Why do I walk him downstairs? Why do I walk him a few steps out of the house? Because I'm trying to say, I don't want to let go of you. I want to stay connected to you. Milaveh malka, what are we trying to do? We're trying to say we don't want the Shabbos to end. We want to hang out. We want to go with you. What happens at a funeral? At a funeral, it's not just we're paying respect. We're trying to connect to the deceased. Someone died. We're hearing eulogies. By doing that, what do? We feel connected to the person. We follow the body. We hold the body. We want to connect for the last time to this person. It's all about connecting and joining together. How about a loan? So sometimes people think that when I loan someone money, the idea is, okay, I have money, you don't have money, so here, I'm lending it to you. But we see from the word that that's not what it's about. It's not just an act of giving. It's an act of connecting to the person's need. Someone is in a deep need for something. I have to go into his world. I have to feel connected to him. I have to feel his pain. And then, of course, I'm going to go ahead and take money out of my pocket and go ahead and lend to him. So that's a real malveh. A real lender is someone who's connecting to the person, as opposed to just saying, here's some money, I'll lend you here, I'll lend you over there, and just give. It's not about giving. It's about connecting to the other person. That is all this root of milaveh. So what's the Leviatan? So the Vilna Gaon writes, well, before the Vilna Gaon, the Shita Mekubetes, the commentary on the Gemara in Baba Basra, that we all learn when we learn Gemara, he says as follows. He says, what did the Gemara mean in Baba Basra when the Gemara said, Rabbi Yochanan, in the future Hashem is going to give the tzaddikim this meal from the meat of the Leviatan? What's this meal about exactly? So he says as follows. Leviatan hu hasoed et tzaddikim umechabram chibur gamor. It allows the tzaddik to connect in the greatest way. Full connection. What's the full connection? Chibur hanefesh im haguf. It's the connection of the body and the soul. He says that's what this party is all about. That when a person, the tzaddik in the end of days, what is it going to be? It's going to be that his body and his soul are all one. And this meal that he's going to experience is the feeling that, he's having a meal. I assume it'll taste good. I'm not a big fish eater, but I'm sure it'll be good. Okay, but it won't matter because the eating experience is going to be one that is going to be completely spiritual. It's going to be something that's beyond anything that we've ever experienced. The body and the soul are going to be completely connected and acting as one. That is what the Leviatan is going to do. The meal of the Leviatan is going to allow the body and soul to eat together. And therefore, we understand. The whole idea of the Sukkah is that we're trying to come in and going to sleep, taking a nap, eating a rugelach, playing a game. But it's not just, oh, my body is doing those things. And when I come to the Beis Medrash, that's when I do my spiritual stuff. That's when I daven, that's when I learn, that's when I put on my tefillin, and there's backgammon, and then there's tefillin. No, we take the backgammon into the Sukkah. So what are we doing? We're saying that I'm in this holy experience right now, and I'm playing backgammon. The game, the chill time, the fun that I'm having with my friends is all about growing. It's going to help me grow closer to God in a better way, in a much more efficient way. That eating of the rugelach, that drink that I'm taking, everything that I'm doing is all spiritual. And that is the experience that we're having on Sukkot. And it's fascinating. The Gemara says in Avodah Zarah, and Daf Beis and Beis, the Gemara says that the non-Jews had a complaint. They said to God, it's not fair that the Jews are getting this reward, etc. Like, where's my mitzvah? Why can't I get the mitzvah? So Hashem said, okay, I'll give you a mitzvah. And he gave him the mitzvah of Sukkah. And then it got hot, and they walked out, and they kicked the Sukkah, and they walked out. And the question is, why specifically did he pick the mitzvah of Sukkah? Why did Hashem pick that mitzvah? And the answer is because there's a fundamental difference between the way the non-Jews worship God, they experience spirituality, and the way the Jew experiences spirituality. A non-Jew is allowed to bring a korban. He's allowed to bring a sacrifice in the Beis HaMikdash. The type of korban that he brings is an olah. It's a korban that you put it on the altar and the entire thing goes up to Hashem. You don't eat a bit of it, nothing, not a piece. However, the Jew, he could bring an olah, but he also brings a shlamim. The korban shlamim, you eat most of the animal. It's very delicious barbecue. You put it on the altar, it burns up, you eat it, and then you go ahead and you eat the whole thing. It's amazing. The experience is that it's not just about, when talking about God, it's all to Him. Okay, when I eat, I'm eating. That's nothing to do with God. That's the non-Jewish way of viewing, worshiping their spirituality. It's all or nothing. With us, all is involved in the nothing. We go ahead and we can eat the korban. What do you mean? Just brought this to God. You brought it in the... How can you eat this thing? What do you mean? When I eat, that is a way of serving Hashem. It's all about that. And therefore Hashem gave him the mitzvah of Sukkah. He said, here, let me see what you do with this thing. Well, what do I do with it? You do nothing. You eat your rugelach in the Sukkah. And like, huh? They kick that. That's not spirituality. Spirituality is, fully, no focus on anything else but God. No. We could focus God through the mundane and uplift all the natural, ordinary things and bring it closer to Hashem. And that is, it's very hard to do this. But that is what we're always trying to do, that everything we do, every speech, every game, every action that we're involved in is always trying to be elevated, to grow closer and closer and closer. That's why it's interesting, the Kedusha, the holiness that rests on the schach. You're not allowed to play with the schach on Sukkot, because there's a special holiness to it. The Gemara says is the same as the Kedusha that is chal, that exists on the korban chagiga. The korban chagiga was a shlamim. It was a sacrifice that we ate. The same holiness that goes on there goes on the sukkah, because it's the exact same thing. It's living with the mundane, but going ahead and uplifting it. The Gemara says in Maseches Avodah Zarah that Rabbi Yehuda Anasi was a very, very wealthy individual. He always had lettuce, cucumbers, radishes on his table, even on the off season. He had it made. But the Gemara in Ksuvis, and Daf Kuf Daled Amud Aleph, says that when Rebbe died, he picked up his hands and he said, I didn't benefit anything from this world. Not even from my little finger didn't benefit from this world. So Tosafos says, what are you talking about? The Gemara says in Avodah Zarah that he had all these fancy schmancy vegetables on his table. He was living it up. How could he say that when he left the world, he didn't benefit anything? So Tosafos says, no. The stuff that he had on the table was good for his digestion. He didn't really enjoy it. That wasn't the point. It was like certain vegetables that were good for his digestive system. Okay. But the Vilna Gaon, in his commentary on Shulchan Aruch, in Siman Reish Lamed Aleph, look it up, he says, no, he says he ate it and he enjoyed it. Oh, how could that be? He said he didn't enjoy this world. And he says no, because everything that he did, and even if he enjoyed it, was all to help his service of Hashem. He was able to take the simple food and say, okay, I'm going to enjoy it, so that's going to make me happier, that's going to allow me to learn better, it's going to help me be happier around my family, it's going to help me be a better father, a better husband, a better friend, a better son, whatever it is. Things that I'm doing for a purpose, for a higher purpose, then elevates every single thing that's being done during that process. There was once one of the Gedolei Ador, his name was Chaim Brim. He passed away 18 and a half years ago. I had the opportunity to speak with him the week that he passed away. It's a whole story, I'll tell you another time. But he was a student of the Chazon Ish, and he was a Biyana Chassid. So he had all the different types of walks of Judaism were all coming to him. He was a very, 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 very holy person. So he used to have a kollel where he learned at nights, and he would take a taxi home. And he would ask his taxi driver, he would say, the taxi driver said to him once, he said, I wish I could be like you. You're so holy and you're such a special person, I wish I could be like you. So Chaim Brim said to him, I wish I could be like you. He said, what? I'm a taxi driver. He said, what do you mean? He said, all day long, all you do is you do chesed. You take people from where they don't want to be to where they need to be and where they want to go. The entire day you're doing that. It's unbelievable, non-stop. You're just taking one person, I wish I could be like you. And he was serious, he wasn't joking. I hope the taxi driver was thinking that way as well. But what was he pointing out? Something fascinating. You could be making a living. The taxi driver was making a living, bottom line, right? But because if your intention is that I'm doing this because I want to help people, I want to do a chesed, you could change what you were just doing or you thought was just nothing to something very, very holy. You could be making a living for the purpose so that you could have a home where you do mitzvot, where you could observe the holidays, where you could buy things for your children, where you could send your children to yeshiva and things like that. And all of your work is elevated to a whole new level. If you're working to make money, that's one thing. But if you're working in order so you can have money so you can be more spiritual, everything that you end up doing is different. The Taz, one of the main commentators on Shulchan Aruch, in Even Ezer, Siman Chafei, he says there are two types of people who go to sleep at night. One wakes up with tons of reward and the other one doesn't. One goes to sleep because he just loves to sleep. He loves his pillow. And the other one goes to sleep so that the next day he could serve Hashem better. The one who goes to sleep so he could serve Hashem better, the entire time while he's sleeping and snoring away, he's getting reward. He's getting reward, spiritual reward, because he's doing it in order so that he could be more spiritual and learn and do mitzvahs the next day better. But the one who's just going to sleep because he just loves to sleep, so, okay, he just killed 8 hours, 14 hours, whatever it is. And he got nothing for it, nothing. So what do we learn from Sukkot? We learn that we could go ahead and elevate every little thing that we do. And if we think in that fashion and we do it right, if we observe the Sukkot in this world, so we're zocheh to the Seudah of the Leviatan, the Seudah that will exist where our soul and our body, our Leviatan, are coming together, are joining together to be one. We'll be all spiritual beings, and we'll have that amazing meal that will exist. We'll be in that Sukkah with the Leviatan covering over us, because all it represents is the connection of the body and the soul. So tonight, maybe we'll get a little bit tired at some point, and push yourself a little bit longer. And say, my body's telling me this is what I need, but my soul's telling me this. I'm going to be a soul right now. I'm going to push myself a little bit more. Or when you go into the Sukkah a little later and you make a bracha, do it to enjoy the Yantiv, to give you more energy, to go ahead and learn more, so we could experience the beauty of Sukkot in a better way. Let's try to focus that on our last day of Sukkot. And then hopefully we'll merit in the future that everything that we're going to be able to do will be so much easier, that everything we do physically will be spiritual as well. Chag Sameach.